How's it going today, guys? Today I'm going to be working on my Quincy compressor. And I got this compressor, I'm going to say it was like 2007 or 2008 when I got this guy. And when I got the compressor, there's a pipe that goes right here. And the first time I turned it on, it took forever to load the tank. And I had been going from like one of those little roll-around compressors. It's not oil lubricated, and it just made so much noise. It was just loud. It took forever. It had no air pressure, and I was really excited about this Quincy compressor. But the first time I flicked the switch to turn it on, it took a long time to fill the tank. And after running several tests, it was finally one morning I came out and the sun was coming through the windows of the garage, and there was like this fine mist in the air. So what happened was when I got the compressor, one of these are compression fittings that goes on this pipe from my pump to my compressor. One of these was loose or busted. So I called Quincy, they sent me the parts, I reinstalled the parts, everything was great. Love the compressor, the thing's built like a tank, it's gonna last forever. No complaints about Quincy whatsoever. However, since I made that repair, it started to leak again, and nothing's more frustrating to me than the sound of an air compressor. The reason I got the Quincy was because one of the things they tout is a very slow pump speed and low noise, and I will say that a compressor like this compared to a rollabout compressor that's not oil lubricated is a huge difference. This whole beautiful compressor, the weak link seems to be this one pipe, which, you know, I think I paid $23 for the amount of this pipe, but you've got, you know, cast iron, really solid compressor, a beautiful big tank, a good solid motor, but unless the air gets from one to the other, you're screwed. All I'm going to be doing today is hopefully cutting a piece of copper pipe, putting the compression fittings on it, putting it back on the compressor, turning the compressor on, and it should take under 7 minutes to fill the tank. So if you know how to do all that stuff, no sense in watching. And honestly, this is I don't work with copper pipe very often, so I can't say this is going to be one of my most informational videos ever, but if you're in the mood for a ride, let's take a ride. They gave me this piece of pipe which you have to cut to the right size. And then the fella came out with 2 of these compression nuts and 2 of these, I think they're called ferrules that go on the inside. Now when I got home, I noticed that there's already something on the inside of these compression nuts. I think they already have like the ferrules. I think it's some slick new invention where the ferrules already kind of attach the compression nut. So after much debate, I've decided to go ahead and put these aside and just use the nuts that the fella gave me, and I'm going to assume that once I start to put some force on this, it's going to tighten. If not, it's going to cost me about an hour and a half of drive time, and I know these parts were under $25. So I guess part of doing things yourself is you end up making mistakes, but the cool thing about every mistake I've ever made when I've done things myself is I only make them once. You learn a ton. So the first thing we're going to need to do is cut this pipe to the right size. And I'm going to be pretty non-scientific about it. I'm going to line up my 2 pipes. And it looks like this one wants to be cut about here, and this one wants to be cut about here. Okay, and then I don't know why I have a tubing cutter, but I actually do have a tubing cutter, which was pretty cool. So hopefully we can just line this guy up with my mark, not erase the other mark as we're lining things up. And cut this puppy. And I've been doing a lot of research about cutting tubing for brake lines, and everything I've read seems to say that it's best to not go nuts with this guy, just a little at a time, just work your way through, because you end up distorting the pipe if you go for too much at once. So this will be maybe my practice for cutting brake lines at some point. And this one is probably going to take forever because I'm going so slow, but let's see what happens. There we go. And one thing I want to mention as I'm doing this is this is not your standard copper pipe from Home Depot. I did go pick some up, and this is 1/2 inch outside diameter pipe with a pretty thick wall on it. The stuff at Home Depot was 1/2 inch inside diameter. And I will admit that one of the things one of the mistakes I've already made is these compression fittings. I went to the hardware store and got 1/2 inch compression fittings, and because they were the wrong size, they didn't work. You need to get the special Quincy or 1/2 inch outside diameter compression fittings. So let's see if we can do the same thing for this guy. And again, I'm not going to be in a rush. Just go a few turns, crank it a little bit more. Don't distort the pipe. It feels like it's loosening already. Okay, so now we can make some music. Oh wow, this is a pretty soft pipe. I just distorted it just by banging it. So don't do that before you have waste. And then I think we're supposed to clean out ream it out a little bit. So we'll just take this guy and stick it in there. Not really sure this makes a difference or not. For what I'm trying to do, I know with the brake lines, they're saying that this is one of the most important steps if you want to get a good flare. Okay. And now we've just got a single cut file. And I'll just try to get any burrs off of that. And again, not really sure if I need to be doing this. Just been watching too many videos about brake lines. And then again, I'm probably causing trouble, and if anybody knows more about this stuff than me, let me know so I can not do this the next time I do it, but I'm just going to clean that off a little bit. And I'm going to clean this one off a little bit too. So that should do it for this piece. This piece should be a match, and all I have to do now is go over to the compressor, make sure I put my nuts on first. So what I did yesterday when I took the part out is I just stuffed some paper towels in here so no debris falls in. And let me just clean the threads a little bit here. And I also turned off the circuit breaker for the compressor. And not only did I turn it off, but I put a piece of blue tape on top of the circuit because my circuit breaker is literally 3 feet away from where I'm working, and I usually turn the circuit breaker off when I'm not using the compressor, and I didn't want to accidentally turn it on as I was, because it's just instinctive now to turn it on if I need to clean something off. So we're just going to put this guy in that little hole down below. Oops, there goes that nut. All right, so we'll line this up in the hole down below, holding on to the nut, and line it up. And then we'll make sure both of them are in there all the way. And I guess I'll do the bottom one first. You can't see the bottom one, but there's plenty of room to get to it. You have to do like, eighth or quarter turns, but there is plenty of room down there to get it. And now let's see if we can get this. Why is it not threading? I'm just going to put a touch of on these threads just to see if that might help lubricate it to get it threaded. Okay. So this doesn't seem to want to thread very well. And I'm hoping the only reason that is because the pipe has no flex. It's being forced against the other pipe. So I'm going to just put a little bit of force on it and see if it grabs. Now, one thing they said about these compression fittings is not to go crazy with your torque. If you torque them too much, they compress the pipe and distort the pipe and they don't work. Unfortunately, I don't really know what the right amount is, so hopefully I'll stop before it's too late. That one was fighting me from the start. Okay, so now it's moving by hand. The guy at the store I talked to said, go a little bit past hand tight. So I am going to do my best to not go crazy, even though I see a ton of still going by hand, even though I see a ton of thread on this. That's weird. I wonder if, if I keep having trouble with this one piece, I'll order a new one of these. Maybe there's something wrong with that. My leaks are usually up here, not down below. And then we'll see how we do. We'll see how we do on this guy down below. And when I'm tightening down below, what I'm doing is I'm moving it a little bit, and then I just flip it, move it, because it's like a quarter turn at a time. And again, I'm trying not to go Herculean on this guy. Snug is all we're looking for, which is such a hard thing to do. All right, so I don't want to get too carried away here, so I think we're going to fire it up now and see how we do. I got some leak check stuff. The compressed air comes out very hot, so I have some leak check stuff we're going to put on this, and if we see fine bubbles coming, that means it's leaking. And we'll just give it ever so slight of a more torque on it. Hopefully we won't see any bubbles, and it'll just fill the tank up in under 7 minutes and we'll be good to go. But if for some reason it doesn't work, after I tighten these down some more, I'll probably go out and do the same thing I did today, unfortunately, and order this part as well. And while it seems silly to do that, I know in these parts, to have a plumber visit your house and just look at a problem starts at $100. So even if I do this twice with parts, assuming I have enough time, you know, it's no big deal. So let's fire up and see what happens. So where we are now is I keep tightening this guy a little bit and checking, and the air leaks have gone down quite a bit. And I'm using this piece of cardboard because the air from the fan back there blows so much I can't tell if it's air bubbling out from the force of the fan or from the force of the compressed air. The bottom one is just spewing a whole bunch of air. I need to tighten down that one a little bit more too. I'm tempted to leave this one with just microscopic bubbles coming out of there, just because I don't want to over tighten it and have to do this again. But I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing down below again, and then we'll let you know how I make out. So the bottom one, to the best of my knowledge, is completely leak-free, and I definitely felt a point where it got tighter when you had the wrench. This top one seems to want to kind of keep spinning. What's happened though is the compressor's been running so long that this tube is getting quite hot, and when I put the leak check on it, it just kind of burns off, it boils away. So what I think I'm going to do is I'll empty the tank and let it cool off for a while, and then I'll come back and, you know, for lack of a better term, just mess around with this top one a little bit more. I mean, it's still way better. I've got the tank up to, looks like we're at 100 psi, and I don't think I had it on that long. So it's definitely doing much better. I just fear there's going to come a point when I go from little bubbles back to big bubbles because I over-torqued. This is how I get the air out of the tank. I put a little L down there, and then with the Parker fittings, they have a nice long handle. I got lucky when I got it and found a Parker fitting, so I can just kick it with my foot. And then I have this rubber hose going through the wall to the outside, so I don't dump all that rusty, nasty water inside. So a little time has gone by, and I just want to crank this down a touch more and see if it's still leaking. And I think the bottom one is good, so we'll do one more check. I really don't want to go more than a few tries up top because, again, I don't want to over torque it. So let's see what happens. Close my valve down below. The one below, I definitely felt some resistance. Now that's pretty resistant too. So let's fire up and see if we have any leaks. So I'm at the point now where I don't know if there's a leak in the top one or it's just, there's going to be some bubbles no matter what when you put leak detection fluid on something that's vibrating. But the top is about as close as I think we're going to get, so we're going to call it a day. I'm just going to check this bottom one more time, and then I think after that we'll put a stopwatch on it. And as long as I can get under 7 minutes, I think it took like 6.5, 6:45 to fill the tank when I first got it. As long as I can do that, I think we're just going to call it good. I tend to go for perfection, and I think this is one of those cases where 99% is going to be good enough. So I'm still noticing a little bit of bubbling on the bottom, and maybe it's the vibrations, or maybe it's just the heat of the pipe causing the fluid to boil. But I think for now we're gonna hold off, and I really do want to crank down on it more, but we're gonna hold off. We're just gonna hold off on that one. So let's get a stopwatch. We'll let the tank drain all the way, and we'll time how long it takes to fill. So I'm gonna hit the start button on my stopwatch the same moment I flick the switch to start the compressor. So it took 9 minutes and 16 seconds to fill the tank, which I guess is better than it was before, but it still seems slow. I might call them and ask how long it's supposed to take to fill the tank. Maybe my pump is due for a rebuild. I know you can rebuild these guys. What I'm going to do now is just see how long it takes to refill the compressor. So I'm going to open the drain. And when the compressor kicks on, I'm going to go ahead and start my stopwatch and see how long it takes to refill. So it took 2 minutes and 18 seconds to refill the tank when it kicked on. I think it kicks on around 100 psi, and it goes up to 125 psi. So what I did, folks, is I called the number on the compressor. I got to a switchboard, 1 for parts, 2 for service. Pressed 2 for service. I got a real live person picked up, and I asked them if they had any specs for how long a compressor like this should take to fill the tank. And the fella didn't really seem to have any specs, but he asked me if the compressor was filling the tank all the way and shutting off by itself. That seemed to be what he was focusing on for the test of whether things are working okay. I mentioned to him about the small leak in the tubing there, and he seemed to think that, as long as it was just a small leak, not to worry about it. He said he didn't know how tight I already had it, but he said he would be happy if there was just a small leak up top, because you don't want to over tighten. So what he did say is the way these compressors are designed is that you can rebuild them. There's 6 bolts on the top. You can pop off the cylinder head, and then there's a gasket, some valves, and another gasket. And he said, you know, even going slow, it would take about a half hour to replace the stuff up top. So if filling the compressor quick enough was an issue, it's probably just that this replacement part is worn, and that's all it would really involve. So I did call parts, and the part itself is $55 plus shipping. And right now I'm not really sure if I'm going to do it or not. I've got the compressor filling quicker than it was. It shuts off, and I think we made a good start. I feel like I've learned a ton. So there may or may not be a video in the future of me redoing the top of this compressor, just pulling off 6 bolts, popping that off. But otherwise, we're going to call today a victory. And it's funny because you know, when you film the video, and I'm sure you guys that do this stuff on a regular basis, nothing ever goes, you know, the next time I do this, it'll go according to plan, but nothing goes according to plan. So one of the you know, detours I took was I wanted to make sure my belt tension was okay. So I took the bolts off to check the belt tension, and you know, I couldn't put any more force on this motor, but I probably lost about a half hour to 45 minutes of my life trying to make sure I could just get it back to where it was. That would be the old "if it ain't broke, don't fix it" adage. But anywho, thanks for sticking with me if you made it through the whole video, and congratulations if you did. And I don't know, I hope you had as much fun as I did. I really do enjoy things like this where you're learning something. Have a great day, folks, and we'll see you soon. Take care.